Thank you for that fine introduction, Mr. Ward. My name is Woody Ward, and I'm going to be your tour guide once again on this important episode of What's Up with Ward, the podcast. As you know, I'm from the good hood where we give it and give it good. As a PSA, I want to shout out to one of our sponsors, Amira Skincare Products. They have affordable, luxurious, plant-based skincare for both men and women. Please check them out and tell them Woody Ward sent you. Back to our show. One of our mottos on this show is everybody has a story to tell. We just want to know what's yours. Well, our guest today certainly falls into this comment because he is not only a relationship scientist, but he has many more things to tell us. And I can't wait to hear it. His name is Darwin McPherson, but we call him Bruiser. Welcome to the show, and how you doing, my brother?
Hey, how's it going, sir? Appreciate having me on, sir.
All right, good to have you here. With that being said, I also invited a female guest here. Her name is Sarah. She's going to tell you a little bit about herself and a little bit what she does for the community too. Tell us about yourself, Sarah.
Hey, Ward, thank you for having me. My name is Seda. I am a school counselor. This is my 6th year in my role as a school counselor, so I'm a huge advocate for mental health. I have experience working in education and also clinical settings, and I am currently right outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Wonderful. Glad to have you here. All right, back to you, Bruiser. You're the main guest, so please tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do for the community, sir.
Well, you know how men and women struggle with relationships in today's society. What I do is I create videos that encourage men and women to re-optimize their mentality and behaviors, so that they align with the needed traits to be worthy of marriage and maintain a family. I'm all about the nuclear family, and I'm against everything that opposes it. In fact, I've been uploading dozens of videos every month on YouTube and social media that shed light on specific men and women that should not be considered when dating for the intentions of marriage. I think that information is critical because it is the very thing that keeps us from establishing the community, specifically Black people. I've been married for almost a decade, and I have a few objectives for men and women to incorporate in their lives so that, they can increase their chances of being considered marriage material. My method of luring people to my content is by shedding light on the misconceptions society pushes with feminism and the attack on masculinity by exposing, the behaviors men and women take up, which deems them incompatible for marriage in a humorous way. I like to throw that in there to, a little bit of edutainment, you know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
this gives men and women knowledge of, what's actually happening in society, and in turn helps them with discernment when choosing a fiance. Talking about it does one thing, but reviewing, what actually happens in public gets the right information out. The reality, they always say reality is 10% of what happens and 99% of what's perceived. Talking points is the closest thing we have to having any structure or standard, in relationships. So a lot of people like to listen to like Jordan Peterson, Kevin Samuels, and other important people, even Dr. Martin Luther King, and people that were famous back in the days for trying to make change and change in the right direction. So I study a lot of people. I read a lot of books and I do a lot of research. I'm prior military, and I'm a husband and a father. I'm currently based in Atlanta, Georgia. We just moved out here and bought a house. And what I did, I didn't come from a household that was what I'd be trying to promote. I actually came from a single mother household. So I actually understand the damage it can do to you as far as trauma-wise. And that's another reason why I'm so hard on trying to make sure the children that are vulnerable aren't affected by our rash decisions when we're dating. And so that's just, I don't want to rant too long. I want to give you the floor back. I'll be here all day, brother.
No, you're cool. We're cool. I like what you're saying, but I want to give a quick confession. I had saw something that you posted one time, and I was like, oh, that's some pretty good information. So I reposted on TikTok, and I dang near got banned. I said, wait a minute. And normally I get like 700 to 1,500 likes on, my little stuff I was putting up. So I posted your video, laid down, take my cat nap, because I get a nap in every day. So I roll over and I heard ding, 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 and started going off like crazy. I said, man, what's wrong with my phone? I looked, I had 20,000 hits off what you said. And next thing I know, is like you're promoting hate speech and this and that. So my question I gotta ask you is, well, what they were saying, is Bruiser a woman hater, or more specifically, a Black woman hater? I know I heard what you said earlier, but I just want to hear, is that true? That's what they were saying.
I don't hate women, nor do I hate Black women. In fact, my wife is a Black woman, a Black American woman. I can understand why people may think I hate women, but it's really not the case. It's women have a habit of not having accountability. So they have an insecurity that's been shielded, and society has been helping women shield it by movements, certain laws they create so they can position them, so they'll be able to shield their insecurities. And what I do is I'm able to see through it. And what I do is I try to tear down the curtain and say, hey, look, hey, I see your pain. I see what you're doing. This needs to stop. I point the finger at it, and I may do it in a humorous way. It may come off as a hater, but I'm not hating. I'm just telling you what's real, and what's real today can really get you in trouble. As you can see, they wanted you off of there pretty quick. So it's really hard. There's really no space. It's really becoming a real small place to go to where you can actually talk about what's really going on before you get into some trouble.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But the whole reason why I do it, the reason why I put so much energy and time, because I want to see women succeed in relationships. I actually want to see these kids raised in 2-parent households, because I know that they do better. So if I hated them, typically I wouldn't even have anything to say about them. I would just say, carry on and keep doing what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. I wanted to give a fact here. I looked this up before the interview, and it says the divorce rate in the United States for first marriages is about 44.2%. The second marriages is about 60 to 67%. And of course, 3 and up is 73% chance for a divorce. So when we're talking about marriage, is marriage the goal for modern women? Is that what you're thinking, that all women kind of want to get married, or where are we going with that?
I think marriage is the goal. And I think those statistics relate to not being covered by your father whenever you go in front of the altar. I don't know what the statistic or data that shows that how many of those women are actually covered by father. And when I say covered by father, I mean, you live in a 2-parent household. Father has some type of influence on the man you are choosing to give your time and your life to. So I would say marriage is the goal. And I would say marriage is the goal for women. But when you put modern in front of it, then it's no longer marriage at the goal. So for modern women, the lifestyle is the goal. It's the priority. Even if marriage is at a later state, say like in her 30s or 35. And during that duration of time from 19 to 30, 35, although marriage might be something to do later, procreating still continues throughout those years, which inevitably causes an issue whenever you talk about the crime rate of it just adds to the single mother epidemic.
Sadie, are you in harmony so far?
So I do agree to a certain extent. I can just kind of share my personal experience growing up in a Muslim household. My parents were married the entire time, throughout my lifetime. My father did pass away in 2015. So it's been about 8 years, close to 8 years. And in living in my household, it wasn't, while I did appreciate the fact that my parents were married. I do think that in certain marriages, you have to factor in the fact that not every relationship is a healthy relationship. So for me personally, at one point or another throughout my childhood, I kind of wish that my parents did make the decision to split up, simply because it was a very toxic, abusive household that I grew up in. And so I do agree that marriage is ultimately the goal for a lot of women. But I do think that if you are talking about like a toxic relationship, that two people really shouldn't be together, especially exposing that type of toxicity in front of their children. Because then as a counselor, I see a lot of kids, they may have the mom and the dad together. They have a very toxic relationship, but now they're going through a lot of trauma. And if you're not seeking therapy or getting help for that trauma at a young age, it will follow you through your adulthood. And as a 34-year-old woman, I am still dealing with some of that childhood trauma that I went through as a young girl. And it's like a lifelong process. So I think it's situational. Ultimately, yes, marriage is the goal, but I think things happen, and certain relationships, don't work out, and it might benefit for two people to not be together or stay in that marriage.
So I get what you're saying about a lot of these marriages, or some. I don't know if you putting out any demographics or any statistics, data that support that marriages, or a lot of marriages, don't have healthy relationships. I would like to see the information on that. I'd also like to see how people able to gather that information without being biased. You get what I'm saying? To anecdotal experiences or picking sides. You know what I'm saying? Because when you get down to is it healthy or is it unhealthy? And then you start to pick up a bias. Okay, so if she's not cooking and cleaning or doing this, that's unhealthy marriage. She might be tired though. But a man may see like that. It doesn't matter if you're tired. So, but if I'm a man, I may take a biased approach and say, it don't matter if you're tired. I still got to keep the lights on. You get what I'm saying? So abuse, I'm totally against abuse. But you also have to take into account of what's causing abuse. So a lot of these excuses, I don't think they're actually graded or calculated on the range in which we can actually look at and say, okay, you probably shouldn't be in a relationship. But we do have data to support that regardless of abuse, regardless of a healthy relationship, a child will do tremendously better in a two-parent household. And then you can advocate that. In service, what I was saying was marriage, is for the children. It's a place where the children can grow up, get an inheritance, and get a head start at life, and try to make the changes that we need to improve, quality of life in all our communities and our families. And it's a sacrifice. It comes with a sacrifice. So I tell a lot of the guys and a lot of the ladies I have calls with, one-on-one conversations, is that it requires selflessness, and I don't know if y'all know, a couple months ago there was a young girl who was killed, and I don't know if I could say that word on your show, but it was
Yeah,
FedEx driver. I don't think the parents was home, or I think someone was watching the child. And a little girl got off the school bus, and she was walking to her trailer or home, and the FedEx truck driver backed up to her and hit her. And then what he did was took her body and drove down the street and dumped her off on the side. What I'm saying, you're not in your children's life. A lot of these things can happen. That's an anecdotal experience, but we still have data that shows that children, they fare better when they're in a two-parent household, and they actually fare not the same, but close to it whenever the father or male figure is living in the household with the child. So we have a single mother epidemic, a fatherless crisis in America. And I had a show last night where I told the brothers, I said, you got to protect your seed out here. You can't just be willingly, giving it away, recklessly, because that's your only leverage. That's the most powerful ingredient to procreation. So if you just allow it to go out recklessly, you can't get mad when these women, are just busting it open or spreading it open, and they already have laws where they're favored for custody, and then the children are, they set up for failure. So it takes us two to work as a team.
Yes, I agree with that. I work for DCS too. So, and you're right, what you're saying about the father being in the house is very important. And kids are more likely to not go to jail, more likely to not do drugs. It's a lot of evidence in this, so I appreciate you bringing that out. But I want to specifically talk about some of the things you mentioned on your page as well. When it comes to women, I'm so interested in what you said on it. One woman was, I guess, working out, and she said she was single by choice. Do you believe that when women say that they're single by choice? Or what's your perspective on that?
My perspective on that is that women who say they're single by choice, they're typically single because they don't qualify, or they're not at the level in beauty, attraction, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, where they can actually attract and, have retention for the man that they actually want. So they use these terms like, I'm working on myself, I'm building myself, so they can get these men, because they don't want to build with a man, that's actually trying to give them some attention. They don't want to settle. They have this thing called, oh, you're average. There's this trend going for high value men. Shout out to Kevin Samuels, rest in peace. But I think a lot of women took Kevin Samuels' words and kind of twisted it, and then the delusion came in, and that's when the war started. Oh, I want a high value man. You're not even high quality a woman. You're average at best. You know what I'm saying? You can sit here and look in the mirror and tell yourself you're not at your best. You're not at your best physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. But you want the best of the man, which is only about 10% of the man in the nation. And women have a habit of procreating with a smaller percentage of the man and passing off majority of the man. That's why they have these stats that are astronomical. Like 20% of the men are actually creating most of all of the children. So, yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm just saying, so you saying if the men are creating other women, then multiple women are sharing men.
Yes, they're sharing men early on. And because this is proven, and you can do an experiment. You can go take a wireless mic and walk out in a major city and ask a woman questions. If you line up 10 men, and 2 of those men are 6 foot tall, got a 6-pack, 6 inches of steel, whatever you want to call it, and makes 6 figures or more, all 10 women are not gonna match, respectively with each man. If the other 8 are subpar or average, below that level of those 2 men, all 10 of the women are going to try their hand with the 2. And if they can't get to 2, then they'll try their hand with the 8. But they're going to fight tooth and nail to get to see if they can win that 20% over before they even try to give these guys any other time. And what's happened is these women are, they're growing. They're saying, well, look, if I can't get the man I want, I'm just going to go get me a college degree. I'm going to go become self-sustainable until I get the time so I can give myself some grace to build myself up. And usually they get humbled because they're having sex during their entire journey. And now they're humbled. Now they're more relaxed. Now their standards are lower. Now they're like, okay, well, now I can deal with that guy that I've been passing off. But now he's got to accept you with your children now.
Okay.
So it's like diminishing returns whenever you take that route as a woman. You're getting your finances straight, you know what I'm saying? You're getting your degree, you're getting educated, but you're losing your value over time.
I don't necessarily agree with losing your value over time. I think that the same could be said about men. And I just want to know, I feel like the things that you are saying, I'm hearing women a lot, but I feel like are men being held to the same expectation and the same standards? Because there are a lot of men who also do the same. You know, they're out here acting recklessly, sleeping around with multiple women, they're having children, and then by the time they want to get their life together, it's like, oh, I want to settle down. And that could be anywhere, you know, again, it could be in their 30s, their 40s, their 50s, and by that time women are like, do I even want to go there? Right. So I think from a female perspective, I think women, when they say, I'm working on myself, it could be because of their personal experiences. Maybe they, you know, went through being cheated on, being lied to over and over again by multiple men. And now they're at a point where I'm done putting myself out there. I'm done getting hurt. This is my time to focus on myself, to better myself. Because at the end of the day, you could be the perfect package and still get cheated on. You could be the perfect package and the man could leave you, right? So, and this isn't coming from a place of like negativity or bias. This is more like, I've seen it happen. I have seen it happen. It has happened to some of my female friends who are literally the whole package, right? And they did everything they were supposed to, and it still wasn't enough. So I think again, I'm big on depends on the experience, depends on the person and their particular circumstances.
So you say they were the whole package. Were they married to these men? And they require marriage before giving up their entire package.
When I
See, the
say
woman's leverage is sex, a man's leverage is his seed. But just like a man, when a woman gives it all away, she loses her value, she loses her power. But she goes get a degree and go get some money, and she try to replace that, her body, you know, her vagina as her power, when it don't work like that, because men value different things in women. And the numbers don't say that it's infidelity. The numbers say that it finances. It's the reason why these relationships have struggled. If they get, especially if they're getting married, most of the divorces is because of finances. So you say a lot of these women are done because of being cheated on, and you're giving anecdotal experience right now, because what happens whenever you talk to women and you try to get them to be accountable, they love to talk about the exception. They'll never want to talk about the rule. That's why they hate statistics. So
Wow.
you got to look at your body of work. You know what I'm saying? Why are these men cheating on you? And did you require a hand in marriage? So
what
these
if
men
you
don't
did
have any commitment to you. If you get in a girlfriend and boyfriend relationship and you get in an argument and things go south and you break up on Friday, he don't have any loyalty or faithfulness or appreciation. He's indebted to you from Saturday to Sunday. He don't do it. He can go out and have sex with another woman just that quick.
But he could
See,
also do that while married as well. So what if you do have those
you can do it,
expectations?
but you're not allowed to do it. It's a difference.
But
You're
men are still
obligated to
doing it.
maintain your loyalty and fidelity from Saturday to Sunday when you have a ring on your finger.
But are men, and I'm not saying it's just men, it's women too, right? So I will hold both parties accountable in this. There are a lot of married couples who are unfaithful, are cheating on each other. There's lying. There's a lot of sinning going on in the marriage, right? So what if you do expect that the man or woman does, you know, everything goes well, right? But then once you're in that marriage, you have children, you're living with that person, and then that person just switches up on you. All of a sudden, you know, they're lying, they're going out all the time, they're being unfaithful. So what do you do then? I would like to hear from you. Like, what is your expectation? Or is that person supposed to just tolerate what is happening with their partner?
Well, I'll say this first. In a marriage, you're supposed to have some type of tolerance. marriage is important and to practice de-escalation with your partner when you get married. Everything is not going to be a perfect, but somebody is telling these men and women that when you get married, everything is going to be Disney World. Well, that's not how it works. You have to work together to keep your marriage strong. And like I said earlier, you got to have some sense of selflessness. You got to be able to put your family and your household and your children above yourself. And a lot of these people that's getting in marriage are not doing that. So you also have to you have to delve into why these men or these women are all of a sudden, because I'm not convinced that it's an all of a sudden change. Nobody's just flipping and saying, oh, look, I'm just going to start cheating. I'm not going to love you anymore. There's a course of action that takes place that leads up to that. And that's where you have to actually go and target. Until you're able to do that, then you really can't get around it. You know what I'm saying? You got to figure out why. So I have issues, and me and my wife argue all the time. You know, people on the outside may think that everything is perfect looking at our photos or listening to the words I say, but that's not the case. We have to communicate, and it's not bad to argue. It's okay to argue. She has a difference. I have a difference. We both came from two different households. It's inevitable. The important thing is being able to resolve the issue. But the people that's supposed to teach you to do that are your parents. Your parents are supposed to cover you and show you how to do that. They don't teach it in school. So you have to get in the household. They will teach you about the LGBT community in school, though, but they won't teach you how to sustain a marriage. And it's a reason for that. It's an agenda behind breaking up the family. It's big business for women. It's big business for consumerism to keep a woman single, because she spends a lot more, anywhere from 5 trillion to 15 trillion annually. So the government, corporations, companies, they got their hands in a woman's pocket, and they'll do whatever they can to keep it like that. Marriage is it's nothing to them. So we have to recognize that, and we have to fight for our marriages, because our kids are the one that's going to suffer. If you look at it from that point, you'll be able to deal with a lot more BS in a relationship whenever you look at the eyes of your children and say, hey, look, I'm doing this for you. If you want to step away after that, fine, go ahead, step away. But don't step away whenever it is going to impact other people's lives. You know what I'm saying? If you're going to go and have the kid, make sure the kid is ushered into a direction where he or she can flourish. So that's why I say it takes a bit of selflessness, and it's really hard to do.
Yeah.
That's why marriage Yep, go ahead.
You had mentioned that the consumerism, so you're saying advertisers target the woman because she's making emotional spends? Is that what we're saying, based on what's going on with her life? Or how does that tie into the relationships?
So I don't know if you did any research or data mining on consumerism or anything like that, or women working. It's let me see if I can pull it up real quick. So I did a show on this as well. So women, they buy more homes, they buy more computers, more vacations. Excuse me. More healthcare, cars, food, more over-the-counter drugs. So they're choosing a lifestyle over marriage, because the traditional way says to the woman, hey, look, you've got to be the one that's going and clean the house. You got to be the one that cooks the meals, and you got to be the one to change the diapers and do all these things. And you still may have to work in some cases, dealing with inflation. The more inflated, we get, the more the woman has to pick up these masculine energy and go do for herself, or even, what do they call it? Co-leadership model in the household. The man is no longer the main breadwinner or the head of the home. The woman has to step up, but her duties as a wife doesn't change. And it's kind of unfair for the woman. So women are looking at this like, hey, look, I don't want to be that. That looks like slavery. I'm better on my own. I'd rather go and get my degree, get a job, and I'll work for myself. Because what they're not going to sacrifice, they'll sacrifice the relationship and the duty as a woman, a submissive wife, femininity and all this other stuff, they're not going to sacrifice having that child. There's no woman in the world. It's women in the world that can't have child that will kill for it to be able to be fertile. So they're not going to sacrifice that. They don't want to go through the world and end up 35, 40 years old, 50 years old, never been married, never had a child. Their whole life was pointless. You get what I'm saying? Their whole life was there's no legacy left behind, their bloodline, and didn't continue past their life cycle. It shuts off. You get what I'm saying? So I think back in the days when a woman wasn't married or had a child, she was considered, they call it a leftover woman or something like that. And some countries still look at it that way today. So you don't get marriage, you don't get a child out of the deal. What do you get? You go and work. Over half of you or most of you don't even have retirement. Whenever it's time to retire, you don't have anything saved in retirement. And most women don't even use a financial advisor when determining how much they need to retire. And there's only a small, I think like 16% of them use a calculator to try to figure it out. And Social Security lifts about 8.8 million out of poverty. So what are you working towards? What is really your independence? And you're still procreating. So the single mother epidemic will still continue, even with your so-called independence. And it's unfair for the kids. And when men look at this, they're like, okay, like these are the things I got to deal with as a young man. They call me average. They categorize me as an average man. What do I do? So, I go get a passport, or I got to wait till I get 35. Because typically 35, data shows that typically around 35, 45, men are on their purpose. That's why I stated your value changes. A man's value increases over time, a woman's lowers. And it's not in the eyes of, see, a lot of women try to put it in the eyes of themselves. It's actually in the eyes of your opposite. The man that you love, the man that you want to marry you, the man that wants to love you back is the one who determines your value. So if I'm going to marry you, I have to see something in you that's going to want to compel me to want to be married to you, to give my life, to sacrifice my life, to place my seed and my legacy in you. I have to be able to have discernment to see that you are the one. You have to have the discernment to see that, hey, I am the one. So if I'm a typical man, he sees a 35, 40-year-old woman versus a 25-year-old woman. He's going to say the 25-year-old woman is a lot more valuable. She's younger. She's more fertile. She's within her sexual marketplace value. Shout out to Kevin Samuels. She's probably a little bit more fit. And once you get to like 35, 40, you have a risk of geriatric pregnancy. So these men they've been waiting on their purpose. Now they want to have kids. Because when a man gets money, when he gets rich, when he gets fame, when he gets all this wealth, his dream is to have a wife and give his children everything they ever needed. But when a woman gets money, she contemplates on whether she want to be independent. Her first mindset and instinct is not to go give a man and the child everything they ever wanted. I want to go have my own life and be self-sustaining.
So women just want the lifestyle?
Yeah, when you put, like I said, when you put modern in front of it, because I don't want to leave out the sisters that are actually trying to be traditional wives or trying to be, not take up the modern lifestyle. When you put modern in front of it, data shows that these women are prior. Their single most important goal in life is to be independent, to have control over their lifestyles. But they still want to be a mom at some point. But marriage is more like towards the end. And now you as a man, you have to make a decision as a 21, 23-year-old man. What was one of the hardest decisions you can make in your life? You got to decide, do I want to play the field or do I want to find a wife to build with? When you build with a woman young, when you and y'all in college, you and your girlfriend, y'all get together and tackle these bills, go to school together, you appreciate the work you put in. You appreciate the time you invested in each other. So inevitably your marriages, your relationship lasts longer. But the young men are screwing themselves because now they're like, hey, look, these women, I'm gonna exploit feminism. I'm gonna exploit sexual liberation. And I'm gonna I'm not compelled to get married because they're busting it open easily. So now I can play the field in my younger days. And when I get on my purpose, then I'll get serious and I'll marry them. But then you can't turn around and say, hey, look, you got a high body count whenever you was the one putting the numbers up on them in your 20s. You know, it's a hypocrisy. So shame on the man that's doing that. But then you have another plethora of women that say, hey, look, you're average. You can't take care of me. I don't want to be with you if I still got to pay significant bills. You know, I'll rather go and, you know, control my own life because me being with you and having to pay significant bills come with a form of submission, come with a form of me giving up control. So it's kind of unfair for the women. So that's why I say men and women got to make a decision young, or the kids are going to suffer. And typically the man that becomes 35, 40, he'll still have to go back to where he in his younger days in that group of women to go find his wife. He'll still be compelled to go back 15 or 20 years to go find his wife at 40, because 80% of the women between 35 and 39 have at least one child in the United States. So you only got a 20% probability to run into a woman who doesn't have a child and actually wants a child at 35. You get what I'm saying? Because a lot of women ain't really, once they get around 40, they're really not, you know what, I can be what they call it, a stepmom or whatever. Or I don't want to have kids. You know, it's just questionable at that point. And then the rest, you know, a lot is highly likely already have a child. So now you got to deal with the fact that, okay, do I want to be a stepfather? You know, what how does that benefit me? The kids don't have any loyalty to me. If the mother is angry at me, if she got to be pushed back, the kids will have pushback. You're not my father. You know what I'm saying?
I didn't even think about that.
You got to deal with that. But shout out, and I got nothing against stepfathers. We actually need them. Given the fatherless crisis, we actually need stepfathers. I couldn't do it because I have the ability to secure a woman, you know, without having to have a woman that's been imprinted by somebody else. I can do my imprinting on my own and have my legacy running through her instead of sharing the pathway of a legacy of another man. I have the attributes, and don't knock on the Russell Wilsons of the world. If that's what you want, I honestly think Russell Wilson had a fetish growing up watching 106 in the Park and seeing Sierra climb from all the way to the #1 spot in her record sales, and was like, I want to marry that woman. And he finally got on his purpose, and he got her. So,
yeah.
So I do appreciate
you got some stuff to say.
Yeah, just to go back on something that you said, I do appreciate you bringing up the double standard, because that's how, again, just speaking for myself, that's how I feel, right? So I feel like there's so many expectations placed on women, especially, you know, if you have a child, you're older, you don't have a child, you are not financially stable, you are financially stable, you have to look a certain way, you have to keep with your fitness. If you don't fit the, I guess, society's expectations of what to look like, there's just a lot of pressure that's placed on women. And so I think it's just frustrating, again, just from a female perspective, because we're doing all of these things, but there may be times where the man still doesn't appreciate it, right? So you're doing everything that you're supposed to. Again, this is going back to what I said earlier. You're doing everything that you're supposed to, and it may still not be enough for that particular man. I know you touched on a lot about, you know, keeping the family together and having children. So there may be women out there who just don't want to have a child. It's really expensive, right? Right now, between inflation, between just living, just day to day, just existing, right, in this world, it is beyond expensive, right? People are struggling to keep a roof over their heads, let alone thinking about bringing a child into this world. So if you're not financially secure and you're bringing a child into this world, how is that fair to the child? If the child has mom and dad together in the household, but it's not a safe and loving environment, what type of psychological and mental health impact will that have on the child? So I'm big on, I don't judge. I am not here to, just because I view the world in a certain way, doesn't give me the right to judge anyone else in this world. Things happen, life happens, right? So I know we talk a lot about women submitting or being submissive, being, the caregiver, kind of, the nurturer in a situation. But God forbid, what if the man dies, right? So now the woman is left with children. So she has to be financially secure, right? So for me, in my mind, my father always raised me to be financially secure, because if something was to happen, I need to be able to take care of myself as well as my children. So I think there's this huge emphasis, and there's so much pressure that's based on females. And a lot of times men don't set those same, I guess, standards and expectations on themselves. So I do appreciate you mentioning the double standard, because I think that's like one of the biggest things that frustrates me as a female.
Yeah, and likewise, the conversation is good. And it's got a lot to do with parenting. And condolences goes to any woman who had a man with with a child, and the man passed away or deceased. I know a lot of guys on the beaches in Normandy left a lot of spouses and kids back in the wars, and there was this thing called SGLI. There was insurance. What I'm saying, there were money left behind to take care of them, and that's another reason why it's important to get married. So whenever you do, when something catastrophic happens, you got the insurance policy, you got these things, these affairs set up to put yourself in your wife and your kid in a position where they can try to get a head start on life and continue without you. Like I said, condolences goes out to anybody who had to deal with that. I know it could be tough, but parenting is important. And when I talk about parenting, I mean like specifically Black people stereotypically have this saying that, oh, when you get 18, yeah, get the heck out of the house. That's like taking away your inheritance to a point, because this day and age specifically at 18, it's really difficult for an 18-year-old to go out in the world and navigate and use discernment and try to be successful. Nothing part of our inheritance. And the way I'm going to do things is, my son and daughter are going to be able to stay as long as they need. The men are going to be able to stay as long as they need until they get a house. I mean, not get a house. I'm sorry. That's a long time. Until they get a job and they're able to be self-sustainable and be able to cover some bills, and then they can go off on their own. My daughters are going to stay in the house until they get hitched, until they get married. They can stay in a room upstairs. They can stack their money. They can, put it in diverse investment portfolios and everything. And so as a man, they can stack their money until they get out of the house and get established, and until the woman get married. I will cover them and I'll have responsibility of them. That is my inheritance. If I'm not able to give them some crazy lump sum that a lot of these our other racial counterparts are able to do, given their socioeconomic status. Our people are not able to do that, so we have to look at inheritance from a different avenue. So we need to hold on to our children just a little longer until they can get, set on their feet and able to go out here and live. And I think if we do that more, and we cover our daughters from our doorstep to the altar, the likelihood of them being divorced or being in these unhealthy relationships would massively decrease. But we have to have a household that they can, build in and, live in. You know what I'm saying? We have to have room for them so they can grow. And we're not really giving them that room because we haven't set ourselves up, and our parents haven't set us up, and their parents. It's just a generational model that hasn't been broken yet. And the only way to break it is we have to love each other. We have to get married, and we have to try to fight for our relationships. And we're going to have to rely on our children in the future to, take heed what we've been doing and change change the cycle in the future. And that's why I had a conversation with some gentlemen earlier, and they were talking about how do we rebuild the Black community. We need what do they call it? Reparation. I'm saying, look, you can keep asking for that, But what we're going to have to do is we have to have a mutual interest. You know, your community is within your walls. Black people don't have a place where they can just walk to or travel to go get a standard ideology or principle that's in the best interest for that type of demographic or those people. We don't have that. So we're subject to misinformation, misguidance, and misrepresentation. So until we have that, then we can stand up against the false narratives. You know, we can go somewhere and say, okay, look, what books are we recommending to our children? You know, who do we look up to as our mentors? A community, you know what I'm saying? Where are we putting our money in? You know, what politicians do we have fighting for, advocating for us? Until we have these things, we don't have a community. Your community is restricted to the walls you have. So that is why we have to build our relationships and have marriages. And when we get enough marriages in these walls, then we can combine these walls, and then we can go out here and get educated, figure out where we want to go from there.
You had mentioned about that window for women. I guess you said their value is diminishing. So for a woman who doesn't get married, I think what I wrote down, you said the leftover women or leftover, I forget what word you said, but what should she do if a woman is like 35 and I guess you said competing with the 25-year-olds, do they really have a chance or are they just gonna have to settle?
Well, a competing 35-year-old woman is indeed competing with the 25-year-old woman. She would have to lower her standards. You know, she would have to lower her standards. She have to stop going for this high value man that they keep dreaming of having, and would have to literally like try to get I wouldn't say any man, but you and I know there's good men out there. They might not be the best handsome guy, but they would love you from tooth and nail. They'll love you as deep as your nuclear cells in your body. And they might not be as tall as you want them to be. They might not have multiple cars and all this other stuff in this big old dream house that you want. But it's a sacrifice you're going to have to make. You either make it early or you're going to make it later. And the longer you wait, the more your options shrink, because you become old. You know what I'm saying? You become infertile, and you become conditioned. You know, to as far as trauma, as far as all of the partners you've had, it makes it difficult for the next man to want to mold you. He's got to come in and reshape your beliefs and your attitude so you can be suitable to be his wife. That's a lot of work to do, because you already got your preferred sex position. You already got your favorite restaurants. You already got your love language from the previous partners. You know what I'm saying? And he has to come in and try to see if he could fit into that. And if he don't fit, now you're like, oh no, you're not the type of person, you're not compatible. A woman is not even supposed to have any compatibility until she's married. She don't even know what her compatibility is until she's covered from her father to her husband. And her husband is the one that reveals those traits, you know, those preferences to her. But a man has to go and try to live up to what the next man or previous partner she had done. And it's really difficult. And that's why a lot of these men say, oh, look, man, she's stuck in her ways. You know, there's no way to get through to her. They still will have sex with you. They still will have sex with you. But they're gonna marry the ones that's younger and more impressionable. Because when the older you get, the less impressionable you become. It's really, really hard to get through to you because you're stuck and you have all this trauma, unhealed trauma. And I'm glad you brought up therapy. I think that's important. But how many women are actually going to therapy? You know what I'm saying? So it's you really have to, you're probably going to have to share at that point. You may have to be willing to share. You know, that's a hard pill to swallow, but it's really a woman gets all of her value in between 19, 25. She gets invited to, you know, parties, you know, NBA players fly them out and all these other things. And the young men that's 20 in their early 20s aren't getting flew out. No, they got to go and work for 20 years. They got to go buy the airplanes. They got to go build the airplanes. They got to go build the jets. You know what I'm saying? They got to go build subdivisions to show their true value. Woman already, she was born with her value. She's wasting her value on these guys, these bad boys. You know what I'm saying? These guys that have the money that's giving them that microwave satisfaction. They don't want to wait for it. They don't have any patience anymore. Society is telling you can go get it now. And you can do whatever you want with your body when you want. You just got the wrong inspiration out there for these women. So whenever they get older, whenever they get to 35, these young men that wasn't getting no cheeks or none of that, now they got to be monogamous. Now that you don't have all your fun, you don't have your share party and all the men you wanted to sleep with. Now you're ready to set it down. Now you're ready to be, focused. And you want the man to do that too. When he's in his prime now. And now you're saying, hey, look, now you can't, now you got to go in the candy store and you only can get one piece. It's an unfair deal. You get what I'm saying? Especially when we're talking to a woman who's already been ran through and had her fun. That's why they target a woman that are younger. They're usually at the same level, a 25-year-old and a 35-year-old on the same level.
That must be why Leonardo DiCaprio dumps them after they get 26.
That's
or
it.
25. I never thought of it like that. I see you moving, Sadie. What you got?
So again, this is not me being argumentative or combative, because I love this dialogue, and I'm a very open-minded person. So even if it may be something I don't necessarily agree with, I can see like pieces that I do agree with. So when you had mentioned women have these like high expectations for men, I do 100% agree. I think women also need to have something that they can offer to the table as well, right? So if they're expecting this man to have all this money, all these things already, set, but yet the female has nothing, I don't necessarily agree with that. I think the woman, I think both individuals need to meet each other 50-50. So if a woman is expecting a man to be financially stable, she should also have her own as well. Now, as far as a question maybe I wanted to ask you, Bruiser, are you a religious person? Would you consider yourself a religious person? Like, do your viewpoints tie in with your religious beliefs?
First, I would like to say everybody is religious. Anything you do repetitively on a continuous basis is religion. If a man goes to the pub every Saturday at 7:00, every Saturday at 7:00, that is a religion, something that you continuously practice. If I have, I do go. I have been to church. I haven't been to church lately, but I do believe in God. I do believe in Jesus and all that other stuff. And I've read the Bible and stuff, but I don't really call myself a Christian because I don't precisely follow Christ's, will or his work or his footsteps, completely. There's things I believe that I'm supposed to do, and there's things I believe that may have been tampered. I believe in just parts of the Bible that may have been tampered with, just to be suitable for a government to be able to control and manage a society. So I wouldn't say I'll call myself a Christian.
Yeah, the reason why, so not trying to make any assumptions, but some of the things that you had shared kind of remind me of, so oftentimes, and this may not pertain to you, but a lot of people speak on marriage and the family, and there's just, how you should kind of live life based on their religious beliefs. And I'm a firm believer in, I can't, like, back to, just repeating what I said earlier, I can't expect my viewpoint and my way of thinking to suit everybody, because everyone is different. Everyone is their own person. I love everybody for who they are. As long as I feel like if you are a good person, you're not doing harm to anybody, listen, I support you. So it was just a question that I had, because some of the I guess sentiments and the things that you had shared kind of echo some people that I've spoken to in the past that were very religious, whether it was Christian, even in my Muslim upbringing, very similar kind of viewpoints. And so I was just curious to see if that was something that you was a part of who you were, or if you followed a particular religion. So that's good to know.
So yeah, and I'm glad you asked that. And I haven't really I guess when I was younger, I called myself a Christian until I grew up and realized that I was not a Christian. I'm more of a fan of whatever religion Malcolm X was, in anything. That dude is like he's like an icon. He's like an idol for me. But 50, when you talked about 50 relations, if a man is on his purpose and the man is established, he's got everything, the woman should, you use the word should, she should bring something to the table. Why do women feel like they are the ones who determine what the woman should bring to the table? Because I honestly believe, like, and I don't know if Ward is on the same page. If I'm looking for a wife, I'm looking for a woman that fit in my system. I've already have a system. I already have a plan. And if she did, and if that man specifically say, hey, look, you need to cover half of the bills, then so be it. And that's that man's house. Whatever that man says, go along with it. But me personally, I think that a woman who's 25-year-old isn't predisposed to not bringing anything to the table just because she's younger, or she haven't got a degree, or she doesn't have any tenure in corporate America. I believe the value is within, it's what we deem your value. Like, we determine your value. If you're young, you're fertile, you know what I'm saying? You communicate, you listen, you're submissive, you have the feminine qualities that we were looking for. You're willing to help me meet certain goals and achievements in life. You're willing to bear my children. You're respectful. You appreciate me. You have loyalty for me. Those are the things that men value. When you come in here and you throw your pocketbook on the table, it's really nothing that, it's really like the least of what we can do. Yeah, we can use it. Yeah, it may help, but that's not what we value in a woman. A lot of things we value in a woman are intangible.
So there may be some men, and again, I can't speak for a male, but I have met or come across men who don't want kids, right? So if you have men who don't want kids, they meet a female who also doesn't want kids, would that deem it not a compatible or like healthy situation? Should they not? I mean, in my eyes, I feel like it all depends on your preference. Like, I know you mentioned that men don't really see, maybe the financial perspective isn't something that they need upfront, but what if there are men who do want that, who do expect that? They want the female to at least have some type of goals for herself, whether it's not making the same amount as them or having savings or having a job. But if you're coming across a female who has no vision for herself, no goals for herself, wouldn't you as a man at least want that or have that expectation from the start? So I guess in my personal beliefs, I feel like it really just depends on what each person's criteria is. Like, my expectations in a partner may be different from yours and vice versa.
What I would say is, I would expect a woman to have her goals aligned with positioning herself to be a suitable wife. Anything beyond that is only for herself. You know what I'm saying? And I would tell my daughters, any work you do, anything you read, any classes you do, try to make them align with being a suitable wife to a man. You don't have to go and learn how to be a welder. I would rather you go learn how to be a cook. You know what I'm saying? Be confident. You know what I'm saying? Learn how to thrive in a household with in a relationship with a man. Position yourself to be a wife. I don't look for her to have all these degrees, because you got to ask yourself as a lady, if you do find a man that you want to be with, and he's already set, he's already established, and you have a career, are you willing to quit your career and go work for your husband part-time or your fiance part-time? Those are the questions you got to ask yourself. Are you willing to do that? Are you willing to help him meet goals and milestones? And you got to know that, men we're here to serve you. We're here to serve our wife and our children. That's all we do. Our purpose is to come to life. We serve God. You know, we put God ahead of us, and God tells us, hey, look, your woman and children is your responsibility. So what we're going to do is we're going to go out in the world and we're going to break our back over 20 to 30 years to make sure you have the life you want, the life you need, and the children are good to go. And we'll pass away and leave everything with you. That's the ultimate sacrifice we have. And we got to be able to leverage that to give you an ease of mind that we are here for you. You know what I'm saying? A lot of these guys are not doing that. I can understand that, but it's not to the point to where it's an epidemic. You know what I'm saying? So you've got to position yourself to be a suitable wife. You know, anything you do, any classes, certificates you take, any work you do, always try to focus on positioning yourself to be a helpmeet. I don't know if you know what that term is. I don't know if you're religion or whatever, but I've been hearing that lately come up. Help me, help me meet these goals or these expectations. And the 50-50 thing, man, there's a lot of guys right now that, and I feel like the inflation has a lot to do with the 50-50 thing. And I think you made a good point on that. 50-50 is doing that. And feminism is also doing that. Because feminism is telling them, hey, we're equal to man, we get equal pay. And men are like, okay, you want to be equal to me? Okay, you cover half of the bills. So men are taking a shortcut. They're copping out, they're exploiting women. And you are allowing it, you know what I'm saying? Because you gotta know you're still gonna be required to make sure you're cooking in most cases. Make sure you're cleaning, make sure you're taking care of these, you're nurturing. There's nothing. That's one thing that separates us. You guys are nurturers. And that's another reason why we marry you. We don't nurture, you nurture. We provide and we protect. So whenever you go out here and you march, you're creating an uneven playing field for yourself, but trying to jockey in position for equality. You're trying to go up against masculinity, and you're not elevating yourself. You're actually bringing men down. You're emasculating men so that they can be at an even playing field with you.
So I just want to touch on that real quick. I'm sorry, Ward. I felt like you wanted to say something.
No,
so
ahead.
When it comes to the femininity movement and the marching, what I can say is, again, this is speaking for myself, but also speaking on behalf of many women that I've spoken to. It's not so much it's more based on equal pay and rights, more than maybe being 50-50 in the relationship. What I meant by 50-50 is more of the efforts that you put into the relationship. Again, I'm not expecting both male and female to contribute financially or equally, but I feel like as a woman, there should be certain things that you do bring to the table, as there should be for a male as well. However, when we're talking about rights, marching, protesting, it's more so, if I'm a female and I've worked and I have the same credentials as you, same level of experience or years of experience, and I'm finding out that you're making more than me, that's more so what we're fighting for, not so much to have more power or to, I guess what I'm trying to say, it's more for those types of things. It's for money, it's for rights, right? The same level of protection. So if I'm doing something and I don't have the same level of protection as a male does, a male is getting away with something, but me as a female, I don't get those same protections. So those are more so things that we are fighting for.
So you're fighting for equal pay, equal employment, but your mind and your body was not built for tenure. You can't put up with the demands of an everyday 9 to 5. So women are out here begging for flexibility. You're demanding flexibility, or you want to quit. That's what's actually going on in society today. If women are able to endure the job up until retirement, let's just say it, you actually got a good argument. You want equal pay. You want to be able to do for yourself. You don't even really save anything for retirement. Your Social Security is coming to save the day. So what are women actually working for? Like, what are you working toward?
Financial stability. And those situations where, let's just say, again, I'm very circumstantial. So if I am in a marriage and my husband, God forbid, something was to happen to him, who else is going to come to the rescue, right? I have children I have to look out for. I have to also look out for myself. The bills don't stop, right? What if I don't have family or friends that I could rely on? So having that financial stability, having at least a backup option, even if, let's say, I did take off from work to take care of the household, but then something was to happen, it's having that, I guess, degree or certificate to fall back on in those types of events. So I'm always kind of thinking off to the future of, hey, if these situations happen, I'm not going to be screwed. I have a fallback plan.
You realize in America specifically, I don't know if that's where you are, but when a man doesn't have anything to fall back on, he loses his job, he loses his career, he loses everything, he goes to the streets. When a woman loses her career, loses her husband, loses her job, she don't go to the streets. Welfare assistance, government assistance, all those things take care of you. You don't have that. But see, I don't think your fear should be at this height, because men are not just dying all of a sudden at this rate to where it's alarming, to where you have to have such a fear that you got to be stable. You get what I'm saying? But I understand what you're saying, but it shouldn't be so alarming where you have to, have this at the front of your instinct that, look, oh, I'm going in a relationship. What if he dies? That's not what's really happening. And if it was the 1940s, maybe, because then we'd be at, I think, was that World War, or was not World War II or Vietnam? I think Vietnam was in the 60s. In those cases, then yeah, you would probably need to be trying to get these insurance policies. And then a lot of women were actually more inclined to get married too, because if they wasn't, Lord, God forbid, they didn't get nothing. Those soldiers weren't leaving you with nothing.
Yeah. I want to jump in and say something. I'm going to go back to what you said, 2 points. The first one about Malcolm X, I'm with you on that 1000%. I never knew the man, but he changed my life as well. And it reminded me of a quote he had said. I liked how faithful and how he was on his purpose. He said, every bad decision I made was my own fault, and every good decision was from Allah. I just thought that was so deep that he could acknowledge that he's not perfect, but he's still trying. I like that. And the second point I wanted to make was, a friend of mine, he found a valuable woman, and this dude, he had got recruited by Babyface and LA to come to the scene with him. He wouldn't do it. And they flew to Indianapolis 3 times to try to get him to sign. He wouldn't do it. He wanted to focus on this ministry. So he was looking for a wife, and all these girls wanted him. I mean, the baddest of the bad wanted this dude. And he chose one woman based on how she carried herself. She's a nice looking lady, but he just really liked how she carried herself. So I think her value to him was what he needed. She wasn't the richest. She, like I said, she wasn't the most beautiful, but I really see that was important to him. And they've been together for 20 years strong now. So it just really impressed me on that. So going to your point, Seda, where you were saying, if she doesn't bring anything, I think if she has what he's looking for, I think she golden. I think they're going to be all right. That's kind of what I got out of there.
Yes.
So, Mike, go ahead, Bruiser.
No, you go ahead. You can go ahead.
I was going to ask you, do you think women need men, or do you think they can do it themselves? I mean, a lot of women at my job have PhDs, and they throw that at me like, I got a PhD, and I'm like, okay. I mean, I'm happy for them, but I don't know what that means to a man.
Well, it doesn't really mean nothing to a man unless he can use it, unless he's some type of entrepreneur and he can use somebody with your credentials to work for him in that particular field. But as far as women saying they don't need man, it's a slap in the face for all of the work man done to build up a society, to be so innovative to where they can create technology to the point where you can be self-sustainable, but then turn around and say you don't need us. It's almost like it's almost like the guys that come out here, I mean, this new subdivision, are building homes. And after they build a house so you can live in, you say, well, like, I don't need you. I don't care what you do with your life. You can go and you can go kill over for all I care. If you got what you wanted out of us now. So it's like being gypped. You get what I'm saying? And I think if men knew that it would come to this, they wouldn't build or configure the technology and society in the way where a woman could be sustainable. If they know that they were going to lose their women as a result. Because when shit hit the fan, excuse my language, and everything stopped working, and you see banks collapsing now. Oh my God! If it really hits the fan, and God forbid it does, everything is just going to migrate back to the natural order. You know, women are going to be like, okay, now I need a man, because it's going to be chaos out here. It's just going to be a lot of crime. You know, women are going to want to be protected. And masculinity is no longer going to be toxic anymore. It's going to be, you're going to need to be toxic. You're going to be as toxic as you can now. So women do need men. You know, we have, like I said, we have the most the most powerful ingredient to procreation, and that is our seed. And if we leverage it right, if we leverage it right, if we protect it, then we may have an influence on women to where they can, you know, rid themselves of that ideology. We do need women too. Like, don't get it twisted. It's not just one way. We need all women too. You know, we need each other. That's how it's supposed to be. And anybody who have any religious background, and God said, be fruitful and multiply. He didn't say go your own way. So.
Yeah, that's a good point there. You had said something the other day too that I want to talk to you about. You said something had happened to Andrew Wiggins. I didn't get a chance to dig into that. What did he go through something, lose some money or something?
Oh man, there's things that happen. He's an NBA player, and just in case Sedai or whatever name is, sorry if I mispronounce it. If she doesn't know, NBA, you know, basketball players, athletes. He's a multi-million-dollar.
Well, Philadelphia Eagles. I'm a huge sports.
I heard that, so you know what the sports are.
Yes.
So Andrew Wiggins they just won a championship last year for the Golden State Warriors, as the Bay Area in California. He's married to a woman, and they have a daughter. I think she's 2 to 3 years old, maybe more. And he's just recently found out that the daughter's not his.
Ooh.
And
I did. Now that I saw this as well.
And this also further pushes the argument about, you know, men and women are different. They're valued different. You know, they move different. They're not the same. And it also further pushes the point that women actually do need men. And it also further pushes the point that women are slapping men in the face when they say they don't need us. Because now that we created technology to where now you can be promiscuous and still find out who the father is based on the technology we created. Otherwise, you would not know who the father is. You know, a woman can go in a room and sleep with 100 men. She wouldn't know who the father is without the technology we created. But a man can go in a room and sleep with 100 women. These women will know who the father is. That man will know who the mother of his child is. You can't say the same for a woman. That's why it's not good for a woman. That's the argument that just literally kills the fact that women can put themselves beside us and say, hey, look, we can be promiscuous too. But as far as Andrew Wiggins, the sad thing about it is she's his wife, you know, and she cheated on him.
Mm-hmm.
Then she cheated. Then another bad thing is she cheated on him with his best friend.
Ooh, wow, it's getting worse.
The next bad thing is she cheated on him, and he didn't wear a condom.
Mm-hmm.
The next bad thing after that is she cheated on him with the best friend, and they had a baby. The next it just gets worse. The next bad thing is You cheated on him, had a baby with his best friend, and you didn't even tell your husband. The next bad thing is this man is celebrating championships with children that aren't his. And now he's got to sit out the remainder of the season to go handle his affairs. This is mental. This is going to be trauma for him. You know, and then women wonder why men go and take what they call a red pill. And they get all woke and enlightened and get angry. You really can't blame them, because women are saying, hey, look, you're average. You need this much money. And then you go give them the world. And now they go take your best friend and then go procreate with him. So it's like now you see men are being influenced by these situations in a way to where they're becoming more hateful to the woman, you know, and they're not justified for it, but you got to expect it. And now they're going to go get the passports and they say, hey, look, we're just going to leave these women over here in the Western culture alone. We don't see any of these things happening over here in Dominican Republic. We don't see these things happening over here in Taiwan or whatever.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's wild. Say that
it's just very sad, man.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you, because I know this conversation was really centered around marriage and keeping the family together. Now, granted, he found out, this child was not his, but for the sake of the marriage, or what is your input on, or I guess perspective on, should he stay? Should he keep up with this marriage? Is this like a deal breaker in your eyes for this man to divorce his wife and say, you know what, I can't do this?
It's an absolute deal breaker, and it should be dissolved. A man of his stature to position himself with less than 1% of the man in the world, and to give a woman not only did he give this woman the world, he gave everything that came out of her the world, and everything that comes out of those children the world, from generations to come. And you just you threw it in his face. You're unappreciative. There's no way you can be trusted anymore, especially if you're going to do it with the person he entrusted his loyalty the most is his friend, his best friend.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have a legacy. Now you have his best friend's legacy within you now. And you don't even have his legacy within you. So how am I supposed to build a legacy or inheritance for children that aren't mine? You've got another man's imprint on you. You've ushered the seed of another man into another man's seed into the world.
If that was
You don't belong
his
to me
child,
anymore.
I'm sorry, if that was his child, would you say, okay, she stepped out of the relationship, she was unfaithful, then would your opinion change? Would that still be a deal breaker? Or is it more so because of the fact that that's not his child?
Well, see, a woman is supposed to be, God is, so look at it like this. Men are supposed to submit to God, and women are supposed to submit to a man. If a man comes into the house of God and deviates from him and steps away, is God going to cast him out? God cast out the most powerful, his most trusted angel. I think I call him Lucifer, if I can be correct, because he deviated. But the women have to question whether a man has cast out his wife. And then in the Bible, it says the means for divorce is, sexual immorality.
True.
So I would say, yeah, he would do that, because she's not. When a woman goes and have sex with another man, she's submitting to him. In order to have sex with another man, that's a form of submission, because a man is coming into you. It's a form of dominance. He's dominating you. You've allowed another man to dominate you. And usually when women cheat or step away, they usually step away with somebody they would actually prefer to be with. Men are the opposite. When men step away, they will have sex with the lowest of women. They'll have sex with women they don't even have any inclination or any intention of having any life with. So it's very hard for a man to try to come back, look in the mirror, and destroy his ego and say, look, I'm just going I'm just gonna be with her. There's nothing about a vagina that's gonna make him say, look, man, I don't want to lose out on that. Especially at his stature, he can pretty much get any woman he wants in the world. So me personally, if we talking about an average man, I wouldn't even do that either. It's literally grounds for termination. But there are some men that can do it. And power to them. It's not for everybody. So I'm not going to just completely knock every man. Every man runs his household, and then they reserve the right to run it the way they want to. And if they want to continue with this woman, they can. It's a sacrifice, most definitely. And if there's children involved, so be it. It's a sacrifice that's necessary for the children. But me personally, I don't think faithfulness will continue in that relationship. I mean, you step out a man and you step out on a man and he's going to stay with you. You best believe he's probably going to have you doing all kinds of sexual positions and bringing girls in the room. You want to stay with me? Let me do what the hell I want to do now.
Ain't no going back.
Right. And
I
I
had
think,
mixed emotions.
yeah, and I
Let me
think
say
from
this
a
real quick.
female perspective, I think that it's also kind of grounds for termination too. Like if I'm married
Mhm.
to you, I'm committed to you. We have a union, it's a partnership, we're together, and you still step out on me, I have every right to, as a woman, to leave, right? Because at that
Yep.
point, you're breaking our bond. The trust is broken. um it happens a lot in relationships, but then I feel like once you're actually married, now it's a whole nother level. So I feel like, if a woman walks away from that situation as well, she has every right to, just like a man does.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. She has every right to walk away. But I think the sacrifices is a little different for a woman when she walks away. I'm like, are you walking away to a better, because men can walk away from a relationship and still do just as good in dating or even get a better woman out of the deal. Depending on how long you've been married, it's not the case for a woman. You don't see Belinda Gates with a nice, hot young man. I mean, they may be willing to do it for the money, but as far as for her, you know what I'm saying? Women are hypergamous. So they're gonna want a man at the same level or better. And it's really gonna be difficult for a woman to be able to achieve that. So she's got to weigh her options.
I think I got mixed emotions on that. For one, I think that if a woman cheats on a man, it's more than likely extenuating circumstances. I mean, I don't just think women do it. So, I'm going to cheat on this dude. He gave me everything. I think we know the life of NBA players. And when it comes to the Bible as well, God does give a way out. And that's for some, body being unfaithful. But he also says he hates a divorce. So if two people can come together and say, yeah, okay, I messed up. This is what it was. Let's make this a threefold cord. I think you can work it out. And I don't think that makes you a simp, but I think you got to really love that woman, and you really got to, like you say, if you think like a spiritual man versus a worldly man, I think you would do that. But see it the other way too, because if your woman cheats on you, I mean, I think women cheat differently. A guy, he gonna cheat with the girl in the next cube. The woman come in her office, she gonna look right at her. Oh, I know what's going on. A girl, she going on a girl's trip with her friends, and she gonna be posting pictures for the next 10 years. Well, I sure want to go back to Cabo. I want because she flew with that dude. They planned it out, they thought it out. Women tend to do it right. Men tend to be more sloppy. And I bet 9 times out of 10 that Mr. Wiggins done did his fair share in the NBA. Everybody seen love of basketball. But with that being said, we're gonna move on to the second part of the show because we got to wrap it up here. Again, we're talking with Bruiser today on the What's Up War podcast, and we're gonna move into this rapid fire section called Getting to Know You. We're just gonna ask you some quick questions. You just give us your opinion on it, and we'll just keep it moving from there. First question is: some people said that the late Kevin Samuel was harsh with his words and his advice. They said it was similar to chewing broken glass. Yet many women were quick to watch his shows. Why do you think so many people liked or disliked Mr. Samuels?
I think people like what Mr. Samuels was saying, and recipes to him, is because he was saying things that men have been wanting to say for many years, but didn't have the courage to say it due to the fact that we didn't want to hurt we didn't want to trigger or hurt the feelings of the women. I would say that his messages may have come off harsh, but if it could be misinterpreted. A lot of people edit and they clip it to the point where he's coming off harsh. But if you watch the entire streams or the entire conversation, it actually escalates from a point where he's not harsh to a point where a woman is being delusional, or she's being an irritant, or she's out of line, and it's actually triggering him into being harsh. You know what I'm saying? If you watch a lot of his conversation, his live streams fully, you'll see that the woman is cutting him off. She's not being honest. She's trying to play games with him. And then inevitably the conversation goes downhill from there. But I think people are detracting from his stream to a point to where there's it's agenda behind it. It's for views. You know, if you can get the most harsh moments of the conversation and you stick with that, people just take that and run with it. And the purpose of doing that is for search engine optimization, so you can get more views, you can get more retention. And it's supposed to be like that. That's what people want to see and hear. They want to hear the brunt of it, and they want to hear the most triggering part of it. So I wouldn't say he's harsh. I would just say that the editing and the clips make it appear that way.
Fair enough. Okay, Seda, I want to ask you, what are your thoughts on Kevin Samuels?
You ever hear the saying, like, the right message, just the wrong messenger? That's how I perceive him. While I thought that some of his viewpoints were valid, again, I can always think from outside the box, even if it doesn't align with maybe what I believe in. I just feel like if he hasn't personally experienced these things, or if he is, he wasn't necessarily like in his prime either. And I feel like there was a lot that he had, and there's a lot, his message kind of came off very much, these are the standards for women. This is what's expected of women. Women should do this, leftover women, this, that, and that. But then the same level of accountability was not placed on men. So that's where people lose me, is if you're going to hold people accountable, hold both genders, hold both men and female accountable for maybe the downfall in relationships or marriages, not, there being such a high divorce rate.
Okay, fair enough. Good question, comment, Bruiser.
So I get people want to look, and that's the first thing most women do. What they do is, whenever they hear something that's truth, or they hear something that sheds lights on their insecurity, and whenever they want to continue to be unaccountable for their actions, what they'll tend to do is that instead of looking at the context of the message and seeing the truth behind it, they'll do the research. They'll get on the computer, they'll get on Google, and they'll try to discredit you and say, although you were speaking the truth, because you don't align with what you're saying, I'm just going to let it go over my head. There's plenty of messages out there that may have not lived what they spoke, but that never stopped the truth from being the truth. And you had Moses. Moses led a whole generation of people. He might not have been the person for it. He might not have had background for it. But because he spoke the truth, he was able to be the man for the job. Malcolm X came from being a criminal, in and out of prison, drugs and all that stuff. But he was still able to move the needle amongst his people because he spoke the truth. JFK had affairs and all these other things. Dr. Martin Luther King had a side chick. It didn't matter. The truth is the truth. And if we're shedding light on something that needs to be fixed and it's causing damage, I don't think it really matters who it comes from, so long as it's authentic and it comes with the intention of making some type of improvement. He did talk to men. Women were more eager to call in, and people were more eager to share the clips of women, I guess you could say, being cross references and as far as communication, more often. And it came like that because there was an issue that was going on that we couldn't put our finger on, and he was helping us put our finger on it. So that's probably why the videos are more prevalent on the woman's side. than the man's side. I don't think he was pretty much biased. But the reason why, I would say another reason why it was like that is because women have this superhero, this superhuman man that they wanted. They all wanted. That makes for good content. And if you all want this man, and you're becoming delusional, and you don't actually qualify for this man, and we continue to have the conversation over and over, you're gonna continue to see more content come out like that until you actually understand that you actually don't qualify for this man. You don't meet the qualifications for him. You got to go do the work. You got to go, become more beautiful, become more elegant, become more inspirational, become more fit, so that you can actually qualify for these men. And they say that's harsh, but it is harsh, but it's a harsh truth.
Mhm. I think that that point you make is an excellent point again about people and advice, because I work in a methadone clinic and I help people get off heroin. And a person told me the other day, he said, "How can you help me get off this if you've never done the drug?" And I can't go no further than what I told him, but I think I could help him. But the point of it is most people don't take their own advice, because if they did, we wouldn't have talk shows and everything else. Every counselor needs a counselor. But anyway, my next question for both of y'all. Sid, I want you to tell me what you think is a good man. And Bruiser, I want you to tell me what is a good woman.
So a good man, number one is loyalty, honesty, patience, willing to work with me. There has to be some level of emotional maturity. I think that's really lacking in a lot of relationships from the men's side. I have no problem. I'm not so, I guess, how can I say this? I'm very much willing to allow the man to lead if they have leadership qualities, right? So if this is a partnership, we're working together, you're showing me these characteristics, you're loyal, you're faithful, you're honest, you're able to lead, we work as a team. If we have children together, I don't feel like it's just all on me, right? You're also like a very involved father. You don't have to have everything together, right? But there has to be, like, it comes back to the 50-50. There has to be something that you bring to the table in order to make this relationship work. Both people need to work at it in order to make it successful.
So what I think a good woman is a woman who understands and embraces femininity. She focuses on the importance of being, healthy, beautiful, and nurturing. She has a delicacy about her. She's able to maintain fitness and nutrition, her health, her beauty, and she's appealing to her husband. Gracefulness, the ability to maintain your demeanor and elegance, by showing poise and control during challenging situations that may arise between you and the husband. Sensitivity is perfectly fine. Understanding how to empathize with your emotions, along with your husband and children's emotions. Nurturing. I can't preach on this too much. Enough. Focusing on caring and providing for the needs of your household. A good woman does that. A good woman focuses heavily on childcare, preparing meals, keeping the household organized. A feminine woman is able to maintain all of these things. A woman having a selflessness, what I'm saying? She has selflessness, sacrifice, she's able to set aside or postpone things that are valuable to her individually in order to accomplish, tasks that are set by her man or her husband. A selfless woman is able to prioritize the needs and wants of her family before her individual desires. A submissive woman is a good woman. All of these things make a woman a good woman. She's, she's focusing on fitting into a man's system instead of trying to make him fit into her system. She's accepting and respect. She has respect for masculinity. I mean, in order to do that, you say you want a leader, you got to be able to recognize that a man who's a leader has masculinity. You got to be able to accept that. You got to acknowledge that your man is better equipped, qualified, and capable of making decisions and guiding the household toward goals. That's what submission is. You have some respect for this man, value your husband's abilities, his qualities, and his accomplishments. You got to compliment him by, taking a role that support and amplifies his skills. Communicate and be open to changes and adjustments that are requested. This is all under submission. Carry yourself as an image that represents the principles of your husband in private and in public. Your loyalty is big. You got to commit, be faithful and honest to your husband at all times. This might make you seem like a perfect woman, but this is all about being submissive. You got to be self-sufficient at some point by establishing a means of income that does not require any external assistance that, can't be permanent. And your sexual availability. I put this last because a lot of women, when you talk about this ahead of time, a lot of women try to make it seem like they try to twist and say, oh, you care about sex. No. But sex is important. You always be ready to please and cater to your husband. So a man is always going to be consistent on whether he pays the bills and protect the house. He's not going to stay asleep on any bump in the night. He's not going to tell you to trade places. So don't tell him, oh, I feel like having sex. You know what I'm saying? Because he might say, oh, I don't feel like paying bills or protecting the household today. So it's give and take.
That's a good point. You just can't take a day off of being a dude. My last question for you in this round, Bruiser, is, I guess I'm thinking about something to say this. You said that if a man could lead, you would follow him. My question is, Bruiser, how do men get to that point where they can be a good leader? You said we're not being taught that in school. I think we know what our parents know. Well, I guess a lot of times, in my opinion, it seems like we learn from the mistakes of others. There's nothing wrong with failing your way to success. I get that. But is it the man's fault a lot of times that these relationships are breaking up? Or is it the woman?
I would say in most cases the woman, because a woman is leaning on her happiness to be the foundation of whether or not she wants to stay in a relationship. And a lot of times women are initiating divorce at a 70% of the divorces are initiated by women due to financial reasons. And they're now coming to a point where they're not even wanting to disclose specifically what it is. So they just say it's irreconcilable differences. But women are leaning on happiness. They're prioritizing happiness. And like I said, when you do that, you don't have any selflessness. You don't have any sacrifice. You're leaning on your own happiness. And your happiness, the things that happiness for a woman is an unquenchable thirst. You can do all these things. You can give her the world. You can build her a foundation, build her a house, picket fence, cars, everything. Retire her. She's still going to complain about something. She's just never satisfied. You're never satisfied. So making a woman happy is like trying to stop the rain from coming. That might have been a bad one. I usually have a lot of ammo in my gun, but I done ran out. But yeah, man, well, women are wrecking relationships because they're not happy. And society and actresses and artists and celebrities are inspiring them to say, look, the grass is actually greener on the other side. And it's better for you to be independent and have your lifestyle. You even have white women who are married in an actual good relationship that has an inspiration that inspires millions of women that are telling women, that are making albums or tracks saying, hey, be independent for all my independent ladies, but then go home, turn around and go lay in the bed with her husband. A Sierra is to be exact. So women are able to do for themselves. So now they're able to leverage that as an ultimatum towards a man to say, hey, look, if you don't keep me happy, I'm going to dissolve this relationship and I'm going to go make my own self happy. Because I know you are still going to go, some simp or some guy is still going to go in and impregnate me, and I'll still be able to get a kid out of the deal. And that's the deal. Until man is able to leverage his seed, then his foolery ain't going to never stop. So they're able to use happiness as a tool to keep a man in check. And they're able to use alimony and family court favoritism as a tool to keep a man in check. So if you don't do right by me, I've got the court system behind me, and I got the guys out there that's still willing to run into me and give me the baby. And I can go and get my cat and my dog, and I can go die alone and be happy.
Wow.
So that's what man got to deal with.
I'm thinking about Jada and Will right now. You're scaring me, but I want to ask you this, Seda. If you could have a 30 seconds of keeping it real, what do you think about what we said today?
I think just completely keeping it real, I think that just because you believe the world should be a certain way, or you believe that marriages or relationships should be a certain way, does not mean that they have to be that way. I think to each their own. I believe that people, as long as they are happy, right, they're doing what they need to do for them, we are not ones to judge. So for me, whether a woman is remaining to be single and doesn't want children, that's none of my business. Whether a male wants to do the same, that's none of my business. I work with children day in and day out, and I can tell you that even having two parents in the household, we're dealing with constant the fighting, parents, two parents sleeping in two separate rooms. There's no love, there's no conversation, there's no family time. Kids are absorbing that. So if we're basing it on family for the sake of having a family, you could be doing a lot of psychological damage to the child, which then affects them in future relationships. So if you're exposed to toxicity and not a welcoming and loving environment, and you're just like, okay, well, the parents are just there for the sake of keeping the family together, that same child is going to be fearful of being in a marriage when they get older. They're not going to be as trusting. They're not going to be as open to putting themselves out there, because they don't want the same thing that happened to them as a child to happen to, in their future relationship or with their child. So I'm a firm believer on, I'm not here to judge anybody. Things happen. Of course, marriage or being happy in a relationship is the ultimate goal, but we can't set these same expectations on every single person.
I guess the same question applies to me, right? So
Absolutely.
I think that when people have this mind, we're meant to work together as a people. Man and woman are supposed to work together. We're not supposed to work against each other, and we're not supposed to work alone. The results show that we actually do better when we do work together. Whether we have a belief or whatever, the results are always going to shine through. And a nuclear family is the way to go whenever you want to make any changes, you want to create a mutual interest, or you want to build and maintain a community. A nuclear family is a way to go if you want to lower the crime, if you want to lower mental issues, help the economy, lower suicide rates, decrease homelessness. And you got to understand that feminism gained significant traction during the third wave in the 1980s crack era. You got the 1986 Drug Act. All these things destroyed families and forced women to become more independent, more masculine, and ultimately embrace feminism. The government discovered a way to capitalize off of broken families. So it's really kind of hard to reverse this, because if you do, you could cripple the economy. Single women are big business, and people are more inclined to just cohabitate instead of actually getting married. So I would say this, we got to understand that whatever you believe in, I mean, you can do that, but just know that the truth is always going to shine through. I'm big on marriage. You know, I'm actually married. Anything I've said, I can substantiate. I did everything. I'm not gonna say I did everything the right way, but because I saw how it was done wrong, I made sure I got myself out of debt. You know, I made sure I got married first before I had kids. I made sure I bought a house before I had kids. I made sure I was retired and my wife ain't never had to work again. I think if men had that mentality, then the world would be better. But it also takes women to be more submissive. And women are not wanting to be submissive. It's causing us to have a war between genders. The women are not embracing masculinity and not accepting of it. Instead, they will go and march and pull up flags and posters for men to become women and for women to become men. So I think we're targeting the wrong things here, and children will, regardless of what you say, children do better in a two-parent household. Regardless of what you say, you can use anecdotal situations, but the data beats it by a milestone. That these kids are 20 times more likely to be incarcerated when a man is not in the house, or when two parents is not in the house. But they still have the same. He still have the same likelihood if the father is only raising the kid. The kids are still less likely. So what does that say about the women? You get what I'm saying?
Ooh, okay. Well, okay.
If your argument, and just to say it, so if your argument is in fact that two parents are arguing and living in a separate household and causing trauma, the better scenario is for the kids to be with the father instead of the mother, or instead of both parents.
Not necessarily. And I don't think that you necessarily have that ability to make that decision because, again, it's all circumstantial.
We don't have that ability. The family courts are flourishing off the demise of the family. They're using a single mother as a tool for economic revenue. So we don't have the ability. And women are not going to, that women know that the kids actually fare better in the household of a father. But they're not going to do anything about it because having a kid is a safety net in some sense.
But if the father is not able to, or maybe is not, I guess, again, giving those situations where the father is the aggressor in the situation, are you saying that the father, regardless if he's the one who is putting his hands on his children or is yelling at the mother on a day-to-day basis, you're still saying that the children should live with him instead of the mother?
Yep, I'm saying the kids have a better outcome. They have better results in life whenever they come from a household that has a father in it, regardless of anything that happens. And it's data that proves it.
Yeah, having a father figure is absolutely important. But I do think, again, because I've lived it and I have seen with my own eyes, and I know you bring up data a lot. And again, I'm not questioning the data, but we're talking about real life experiences, real people. And I meet and I come across people on a day-to-day basis children who come to me as their counselor and are saying, I would much rather not live with both of my parents because of the toxic household that I live in, then I'd rather have, spend some time with my father than spend some time with my mother in separate households than being in that same household.
Why do you feel it necessary to put emphasis on real people and real life experiences whenever I bring up data, as if data doesn't support real life experiences and real life people?
But data can also be true. Data could also be false, right? So if we're looking at actual real life data, surveys, if we're looking at, hey, we're interviewing people, then I will give that to you. But anybody could go online right now and say 50% of people are divorcing, or 50% of this and this and this. So I'm just saying that sometimes data.
Well, yeah, they can do that if you go to a site that's not credible. When you have a site that's backed by the actual federal government, people can't go and do that. And surveys are becoming a thing of the past, because people are actually to get data and a lot of these facts from job applications, people that's filling prescriptions all the way to enlisting in the military or whatever. Human resources is data mine, is making this data available. Whenever you go fill out an application and say, hey, look, I'm single, I weigh such and such, I'm this tall, or I'm this demographic, I'm single, or I'm divorced, or I'm widowed, we're able to use that information and make a determination on who's working, how much somebody's making, where they live at, you know what I'm saying? What's their relationship status, how many kids are in the house, you know, and looking at W-2s and income tax returns and knowing how well they're actually spending their money. We don't even have to come talk to you no more. Hell, we got AI systems on the rise that are putting people out of work that used to record this information, and it's actually becoming more accurate because the people that we don't have to rely on the human error anymore or biases anymore. You get what I'm saying? So it's kind of scary, but it's getting more accurate to the point where it becomes undeniable. So you could knock the stats, and women have a habit of not wanting to talk about the rule. They always want to talk about the exception or anecdotal experience. But you have to be able to focus on what's generally happened, because when you only focus on the people that you interview or you work with, you pretty much, you know, exempt everybody else, the overwhelming majority that's actually going through these things.
Okay.
Okay. No, you good? Okay, all right. Well, Bruiser, it's been a plum pleasing pleasure to speak with you today about this very important topic of relationship in our community. But before we get out of here, I want to do a couple of things. I'll give my final thought, but I want to give you the opportunity to let people know where they can find your social media presence on social media.
So you can find me on YouTube, where I'm mostly at. It's called Concur Network. The way you spell it, it's CONCUR Network. And the reason why I call it Concur, it's a place where everybody can touch and agree and have a mutual interest. I think that's where we can start moving the needle when everybody come together and agree. So that's why I took that name. And you can follow me on Instagram at Bruiser, BRUIZZR, just like it's spelled right here on my display name. You can find Bruiser on Instagram. You can find Bruiser on TikTok, and you can also find Bruiser on Facebook. I haven't been into social content creation for long. I think I just started back in April last year. But I've been able to grow very fast. I got 70,000, almost 80,000 followers on TikTok, and I think they probably about to ban it soon. I also got almost 50,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Ooh.
I had 1,000. I had less than 1,000 on December 24th of 2022, and I think today I almost hit like 50,000. So it was only a matter of a few months. One of my videos went viral. I got millions of views off of a video I made about the brutal truth about marriage. You know,
I saw that.
It
That was good.
Check that video out. It's got a lot of information on it. It's got a little humor to it too. So be careful, just beware, don't get triggered.
Yeah, yeah. And Seda, can you let the people know where they can find you at too?
Yeah, so I do have an Instagram. My Instagram is SG_03XO. I can also send that to you, Ward. I do have a Facebook. I don't really use it. My page on Instagram is private, but if anyone, wants to follow me, I will accept. And my page is mostly just, if it's not sports related, it's just, I do sometimes make posts about mental health. I was interested in maybe doing my own podcast, but that requires time and working a full-time job and, everything else that comes with it, it can be pretty time consuming. So, but it's in the works.
All right. You always got a home here when you're ready. So Keep us in
Thank
mind.
you.
All right, guys. Before I say my final thoughts here, I just want to thank Bruiser and Seda for joining us here today on What's Up Aboard the podcast. And I'm going to end the show by talking about ships. We know ships are designed to take us from one place to another, right? But consider this. What if you have a friendship or a partnership or a companionship, or in this case, a relationship that's not getting you from point A to point B? You might want to consider abandonship. Remember, everybody has a story to tell. We just want to know yours. So please continue to support the show wherever you stream your content. Until next time, peace.